Hello, and welcome to Adapt Productions of Chicago, the program about the world of the disabled, produced entirely by the disabled. I'm Joel Margolis, your host. And today I'm starting by asking you, have you in recent years walked into a restaurant and seen a dog sitting on a chair near you? Or perhaps you've been on an airplane flight, turned around and seen a dog sitting in the seat in the row behind you. Except the dog is not accompanied by a visually handicapped person. And you've wondered what's going on. We're going to answer some of those questions today by speaking with Mike Tellerino, who is executive director of a not-for-profit, Paws Illinois, that trains service dogs to work with the disabled. Mike, I'd like to start by asking you about the diversification of service dogs. I think many of us in the general public and even in the disabled community think of a service dog as working with a blind person. But I think that definition has become a little too narrow. Am I correct?
You're correct, yes.
Too narrow in what way?
Well, there's many different facets that a service dog provides, services that a service dog provides. You've got service dogs that provide services for veterans with PTSD.
Veterans with PTSD?
Emotional support dogs. What they do is they give the veteran the opportunity to get out in public. A lot of veterans with PTSD are secluded. You know, they don't reach out.
They're somewhat isolated?
Correct. With the service dog, that gives them the advantage to get out and mingle with the public and just to reach out, you know.
And do we also now have service dogs working with people who are in wheelchairs in some cases?
Yes, for the blind, wheelchairs. Like I said, there's many different facets. I mean,
so it's become a multifaceted world, that of service dogs.
Without a doubt.
Well, if it's become such a diverse field with service dogs performing multiple functions, does that mean then that the number of service dogs in service has increased somewhat in the last 15 or 20 years?
Oh my God, tremendously.
It's been more than a 10 or 20% increase?
I would say 30 to 40%.
30 to 40% in only a couple of decades.
Correct.
Okay. So that helps to explain things such as sitting down on an airplane seat and seeing a dog next to you.
Correct. That's why you see so many now in public.
Okay. But that then raises another question. If there are service dogs available for a number of needs, okay, and people can and do take them into a variety of places, okay, what's to prevent, in addition to the fact that they're disabled people who really need the dogs, what's to prevent someone who is not particularly ethical and a little bit selfish and who simply wants to have a dog with them
Correct.
from claiming it's a service dog and taking it into a restaurant or an airplane?
Well, here's the problem. You can go online. You can get your dog, your pet, your rabbit, your snake,
You name it.
You name it. You can get it registered as a service pet for $25. They'll give you a certificate. They'll give you a jacket. They'll give you a card to keep in your wallet.
When you say they, who is that's giving out these certificates?
They're registries online.
Online registries.
Online registries,
But
correct.
I've never heard of these as part of any government department.
That's a problem. They're not. They just pop up on the internet.
These are not government organizations.
Not at all.
These are purely private entrepreneurial organizations.
That are charging a fee.
And that are essentially making money by handing out
Correct.
certificates to anyone who needs them.
Correct.
Okay, then what is to stop an unscrupulous business person from setting up one of these online registries and simply selling certificates of need to anyone who wants one?
Nothing at all. What we're trying to do right now is get an Illinois state registry run by the state of Illinois. So if you have a service dog and you're saying that, okay, this dog is an emotional support dog, or if it's for the blind, or if it's to help you when you fall, get up, okay? What we're trying to do is get those dogs certified by the state of Illinois, so there'll be a registry so you can go online and really verify that is a true service dog.
Now, when you say we're trying to get the state of Illinois to do this, clearly you're hoping to have this established as a government functions, in this
Correct.
case, state government.
Correct.
But specifically, who is it that's doing it? Is it the governor's office? Is it a division of animal welfare? With what branch of state government is working on this?
It would be the Department of Agriculture.
Okay, and are you, in your organization at Paws, Illinois, working with someone from the DOA of the
Yes,
state
we
of
are.
Illinois?
We're getting a petition prepared so we can get it out and get as many signatures on as we can to start this registry so we could stop all these unscrupulous internet pop-ups trying to get your dog registered.
And the state of Illinois would then have some leverage with which to hopefully block these unethical,
Correct.
may I call them pseudo-registry services?
Correct. Exactly right.
But in order for the state to do this, doesn't the Department of Agriculture need to have some enabling legislation from the legislature?
Without a doubt. We would have to go through the state representative to get the bill up and running.
But do you have any state legislatures who are willing to work with you in support of this?
We have probably the support of about 3 state representatives, and I'd rather not say who they are right now, but they're supporting us in our efforts to get this bill passed. Once that bill gets passed, then the state will have to, perform the registry.
So a bill actually has been introduced into the state legislature?
It's being processed now. It's being written now.
And it's going to be brought to the floor of the state
Correct.
House of Representatives?
Correct.
Okay. Now, for people who are interested in this issue and would like to see the genuinely disabled fully credited to use their dogs where they want, and at the same time block those who are selfish abusers
Right.
of the process, how can they learn more about this? Is there a way they can contact you or your organization?
Yeah, they can go on our website, which is pawsillinois.org.
That's www.pawsillinois.org.
.org.
That's PAWSILLINOIS.org.
That's correct.
Spelled as one word.
Spelled in one word. They can go
Okay.
online. There is a tab at the top of the page which will have the petition for them to sign. Once we get enough signatures, then we'll present that to
They just need to click on a tab that says, what does the tab say?
It's going to say, well, right now, what it is, it's going to say the Senate bill to pass appropriation for service dogs.
I see, okay. And also the website will contain other information about the world of service dogs?
Oh, yeah, especially for veterans. In fact, Paws Illinois originally started out just as an adoption, rescue, and foster. We then went into fostering, and then we started to do service dogs for veterans with PTSD. Well, that mushroomed to unbelievable heights for us. We had such a big response from veterans needing these service animals in the Veterans Administration. One day they're doing it, the next day they're not. Nobody knows the process. So what we did, we said, you know what, let's put something together where we could work strictly with veterans that have PTSD, that we can assist them in getting these service dogs without going through the veterans.
So working with disabled vets who have PTSD
Correct.
has become a major part of your organization.
Yeah. In fact, what we did is we started a separate 501c3, which is Canine for Veteran Warriors.
Canine for Veteran Warriors.
Yes.
Is there a link to that on the
Yep,
Paws Illinois website?
there's a Facebook page for it, and there's Canine for Veterans, veteranwarriors.org.
Well, this sounds like a whole world unto itself.
Oh, it is. It opened a totally new world for us.
Well, then, if it is indeed a whole world, I think our viewers need to know more about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to suggest to our viewers that they stay tuned, because in a second segment of this show, we're going to have 2 disabled veterans who both have dogs, okay? Mr. Brett Mango and Mr. John Jans, both wounded warriors with PTSD, come on our show. And Mike, I believe you're going to talk to them
Yep,
about the
I
service
sure will.
you provide.
Yes, I will.
So please stay tuned, because we're soon going to be giving you more information about this expanding and remarkably helpful world of diverse service dogs for people with diverse disabilities.
We're here today to talk about veterans with PTSD and service dogs and what they really mean to our veterans and what an important role they play in their lives. John, why don't we start with you? Can you tell us a little bit about Allie?
So I've got Allie. She's a Puggle. It's a hybrid of a Pug and Beagle mix. I've had her for about 7 years. Um, I, I got her after I was hit by a roadside bomb back in 2006, and she's been just a lifesaver for me. She can detect seizures and blackouts. She helps in public settings, and
How has she changed your life, John? Before you had Allie, how was it, and then how was it after you got her?
when I first came home, it was hard just to go out in public. For it seemed like years, I just either wouldn't go out or would go out, would get the bare necessities that I had to go out for, and then hurry back home. After I got her, it was a lot easier. She's great with my daughter. I've got a 4-year-old, and my daughter calls her sister, her big sister. She can, even though she's 4, she still tries to ride her. And
What about when she has her vest on? That means she's working.
yes.
When you take that vest off, she's just a regular dog at home?
Yes, she knows she's working when she's got her vest on. Take her vest off, and she's going to start wandering around. She's going to start try to grab food or
Right.
play around.
Just be a dog.
Right, exactly.
Just be a dog. John, have you ever had any problems with Allie going into public?
A few times. I had an incident at Olive Garden. The owner said that, I'm sorry, the manager told us that you have to have an actual disability in order to bring a service dog in. And my wife had a couple words with him, and he changed his mind real quick. But outside of there, I've had problems with my living situation. The apartment I was living in, we're currently having we've got a lawsuit pending with them, and there's been quite a bit of.
If I remember right, I think you said something about the VA.
Yes, I actually got kicked out of the VA with her.
How do you get kicked out of the VA with a
There was a
being a
security
veteran
guard
with a service
right.
dog?
There was a security guard, did not like her apparently.
Right.
Yeah, I was sitting in the pharmacy waiting to get a prescription refilled, and
Actually asked you to leave.
he asked me and then told me to leave, and it was a good day. Just another great time at the VA.
Unbelievable. That's so again, Allie's really made a huge difference. So what would you say to other veterans that that have PTSD that don't have a service dog? Would you recommend it as a way to help them through their PSD, or is it?
She's helped with more than just the PTSD. She was my first dog I've ever had. I kind of lucked out, I guess. But I've got a friend that I was in with. He got hit by a roadside bomb also. He's having some problems. And she's done so much for me that I'm actually helping through your organization
Right.
to get him out here, to get him his own dog.
Right.
Because it's...
Yeah, he was telling me that he's been waiting for over 2 years for a service dog through the VA.
Yes.
I mean, is that typical?
Yes.
Is it?
Absolutely. The waiting list for most of the organizations that I've looked into, there's dozens of them now.
Right.
But the waiting list is so long. It's 2 or 3 years, and it's from the time that you register, not the time that you first speak to somebody, and it's.
I heard a lot of these organizations now are saying that to qualify, you have to be a post 9/11 to qualify. In other words, if you're a Vietnam veteran or whatever, that you wouldn't qualify under their program. I ran into 3 or 4 of those organizations that say if you're not post 9/11, you're not qualified to get a service dog.
A lot of that comes from the funding. They get grants from the government, and nothing new. The Vietnam guys are getting shafted once again. So anything post 9/11, the government is trying to help out with them. But anybody that's had any problems
Right.
before 9/11,
They're
left to their own
yeah, yeah.
to fend for themselves.
Which is totally,
So.
totally not right. Brett, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
Just a little bit about myself. I was in the Army. I was infantry. I deployed to Panama, Iraq, and Afghanistan. I retired in January 2014, and I've been trying to adapt back into civilian life. I ran into a couple problems with Taz, because he's so big, people,
He is big.
as soon as I walk in the door, they're like, whoa, you
Yeah,
know.
right. Tell us how you got Taz.
I was wounded in Afghanistan, and while I was in the hospital, they trained Taz, and when I was out, they trained myself and
With
Taz together,
Taz.
and training was about a year and a half, and it was through the Wounded Warrior transition at Fort Stewart, Georgia, and there was a lady who was a military spouse. She is the one who volunteered all her time. She was certified through ABC, and she trained every dog. She did it out of her own time. She's a military spouse of a husband who's deployed several times, and her daughter has autism. So she was really passionate about it, and she did a great job, and she helped out a lot of veterans.
What exactly is Taz's function with you?
Taz is here to make sure I don't fall. He's here to pull me upstairs. He can open the lever latch doors. He really helps me out a lot. And he's not only that, he's there to make sure that when I start feeling like I'm in a tight spot or I start getting stressed, he knows. So he'll get close to me.
What are some of your stressors with PTSD?
Large crowds stress me out. Driving stresses me out sometimes. But that happens to everybody.
Right.
But
Drive on the express.
mostly he's there. Like when I go to school at St. Xavier University. And when I go to school, he goes with me. And we have a student veteran group. And there's several veterans that have dogs at our school now. And our school is very veteran friendly. And I take them to class, and there's a lady named Margaret Rose, and she's in charge of the students with disabilities. And she makes sure that your class and your teachers know that you're coming into class, and they make arrangements for you. I mean, they're very on top of it. And he's not only my service dog, but when we go into the student veteran room, I let him off, and he's free to walk around, do whatever, drink his water, have a snack. And he actually helps out other veterans, too.
Does he really?
Yes, he knows when someone is not feeling right or having a bad day, and he will go and try to get close
So
to them.
he's been really huge in your life.
Oh,
then.
yeah.
Plays a big part.
Between my wife and my kids and him, I don't know if I would be doing as well as I am now.
Again, let me ask you, what would you say to a veteran coming home with PTSD? It seems like they don't know what to do or where to go to get help.
Well, I would tell them to try to find alternative medicines, not taking medication all the time like they want you to. Like Taz, he helps me out so much that I still take medication, but not as, I don't take it to the extent of some other guys. I mostly take mine to sleep. And he helps me through the day.
So you're going to say that
He goes everywhere with me and my family.
Right. So you're going to tell me right now that he's just a huge part of your life,
Yes.
and it's made a world of difference.
I wouldn't. He's done so many things for me. I can't even tell you. When I first got out of the hospital, I was retiring out of the Army. I had several surgeries, and one of my surgeries failed, and my spinal column collapsed, and so I couldn't walk. And he went and got help. Like we were right by the door. He went and opened the door, and everybody was looking who's his dog belonged to, and I was outside. So he went and helped me out a lot. And then just the other things he does. He goes to concerts with me, and he helps me because sometimes with all the people there I get stressed, so he'll stay close to me. And we just
Does the VA offer any assistance with these service dogs?
no.
Nothing.
Nothing.
So basically, you're given the service dog and you're on your own.
Yes. I heard there's programs that you run that,
Yeah, Paws, Illinois has a program where if you're a veteran with a service dog, we'll provide free medical, free food, whatever that dog needs, as long as you're a veteran with a service dog.
that's
Just
wonderful.
call us and let us know. We did get into a new 501c3, which is Canine for Veteran Warriors. That's set up strictly for veterans and service dogs. We had such an overwhelming response from veterans when we were doing it under Paws, Illinois, that we felt, you know what, there's such a need here that we need to do something specifically for the veterans.
Well, and I think another aspect of that is that you're training dogs the correct way, and you're not just throwing a dog out there that's not been trained, and that happens very often.
Right, not at all. Our dogs are put through a regimen. We meet with the veteran, find out what their needs are. We meet with, we have them meet with the dog to make sure it's a good fit. We thoroughly test the dog to make sure he's going to be good for the program. And then we work after the dog, it goes through the program, he works with the veteran. They work together. So it's really a good program.
Yeah, it's very important for the veteran to do the training with the dog, because that's where you create your bond.
Exactly.
Right.
So, and that's the main thing with him, is me and him have a bond. He is always by my side.
Right.
No matter if I'm in the house or he's working or not, he's always with me.
And during that training, after I got out of the military, there's no structure anymore. Everything is so regimented in the military that training that I had with her was essential. Yeah, I mean, and it was extremely important. It helped get back on a regiment. Every day I knew from this time to this time that I was going to be doing something, and that was really the only stability that I had at that time. And then in regards to the medicine, after I got Allie, I was able to get off of 3 of the prescriptions that I was on.
Wow.
Because the VA and the military just have a tendency to medicate for everything.
Right.
So there's, and there are other options available that.
So basically,
Not
Allie,
narcotic way.
Right.
yeah, basically, Allie is your best friend, your confidant, your everything to you right now.
Yes.
I mean, and same thing with Taz.
Oh, my wife's still number one.
Yeah, well, we hope so. We hope so. But again, it has made a huge difference in your life.
Yes.
So you would recommend a veteran with PTSD to contact any organization, whether it's Canine for Veteran Warriors or an organization that'll help them out?
I would say contact them, but do your homework first.
Right.
Don't just go out there blind and the easy route, because the
Right.
easy route's not going to help you. Go to a organization that's established and has a website for you to look at,
Right.
has stuff that you can actually research before you do it. If there's not any of that there, it's probably not a very good program.
What do you think the most important role a service dog plays with PTSD?
Giving you your personal space from people, helping you break the ice with new people. Everybody loves dogs.
Right.
99% of people like dogs.
When you go to a
So-
public restaurant or public place, do people come up and want to pet her? Do they?
Most of the time, they don't see Taz because he goes under the table. But they do try to pet him, and that's just comes again back to the no, it's not allowed.
Okay.
It comes back to the ignorance of the law
Right.
and what the program is. And when you let somebody else pet your dog while he's working, he doesn't pay attention to the person he's supposed to.
Right.
It's more about him then. So,
So you would-
when he has a release word, when I give him the release word, he can go do what he wants.
So you would tell people that are watching this that, if they see a person with a service
Exactly.
dog, to ask whether or not
Yes.
they could pet that dog or not.
Yes.
It's like any other animal. Just don't
But-
walk up to a random animal and start touching
You'll
it.
see, like now, because I was like the first one to come in with a service dog in my school. And at first, everybody was trying to pet him. But you'll see other people who you educated tell people, you can't pet that dog.
Right.
Like if I'm not paying attention, he turns around and watches my rear. So he, like, people would just come up and start petting him, and he would pull away because he knows it's not supposed to be pet.
Right.
But there's people who are persistent and just keep reaching at your dog.
What about
And,
people coming too close to you, invading your space?
If I feel threatened, he'll create space for me. Not in a mean way. He'll just like move against you and give me a little space.
Exactly.
But he's very receptive of how I feel
Mm-hmm.
and how people are coming at me. So, he's not aggressive at all. They before the dog even goes into training, in the program I was in, they do a bunch of temperance tests.
Without a
It's
doubt.
pretty.
We did the same,
It's
yeah.
pretty strict, and he passed flying colors. Been really good. I think he's only had one incident where another dog bit him. So, and that comes back to someone having a dog that wasn't trained.
Right. And that's I think that's the biggest problem is that, you know, most of these dogs that are quote-unquote service dogs, they go into a public place and they act unruly or they cause a disturbance or whatever, and it gives everybody the impression it's just a bad dog. You know, everybody comes in with the dog, has to have a bad dog,
Yep.
you know. So when you do come in with a well-trained service dog like you and John have, I mean, you know, it just makes it bad for the people that actually have a true service dog.
That's it. At St. Xavier, I make sure to let the people know who have service dogs now that if their dog is unruly or doesn't do what it's supposed to, I am going to make sure that that dog doesn't come back because it ruins it for other people down the line.
Well, John, Brett, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show today. Hopefully it's been educational for veterans coming home with PTSD and, you know, how having a service dog can help them.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much for having
Thank you,
Thank you.
for having us.